Hello and welcome to Odds Now, where we're taking a look at the final 8 of the World Grand Prix. We're down to the quarterfinals, all 4 quarterfinals taking place live on Friday evening. Plenty to look forward to, plenty of bets, some success already for those that have been reading the oddsnow.com column written by the other man on your screen, Matthew Hill. Matt, how are you? And amongst the winners?
Yeah, amongst the winners to a degree. It's all on tonight for me, really. I've got Jonny Clayton to win the quarter, Jonny Clayton outright. So providing he beats Dirk, I'll be a happy man. But yeah, in terms of the match betting, yeah, it's been going well on a personal level, to be fair. It's sort of steady round one, really, really good round two. Pretty much a full house on round two, other than the Josh Rock Gerwyn Price game where Rock was, disappointingly flat and chasing and never looked likely, really. But yeah, it's been a good tournament, and I always enjoy this tournament. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's a little bit different. And the double in, it's just jeopardy that we don't get to see in any other part of the calendar. So yeah, I enjoy it.
I don't mind the double in. I know why it's there. Like you say, it's a bit of variety in the calendar. It's just not as enjoyable for me to watch because of the flow. It's slower, the scoring's lower, etc. But we knew that bit beforehand, and that's the way of this tournament. No surprises, no massive shocks really. With Littler still there as favourite, Humphries is still there, Gerwyn Price is still there. So they was the top 3 in the betting to start with. Rock was 4th in the betting, but he played Price last night. So really, you wouldn't really say we've had any massive shocks so far. You said in the preview video, Clayton and Bunting. We had Connor on there as well. I said Humphries at 13-2. I did back him. He is now 3-1, but it must be said that Littler has been pretty sensational so far. So that's probably the best place to start in terms of a quick reflection on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, well, if you were betting it now, you'd you would say exactly what you said, that not been many big shocks. I mean, in terms of the individual match by match betting, there's been plenty of favourites beaten, but not favourites that were necessarily fancied to win the title. In terms of raw performance, Littler's been a level above, particularly against Jan van Veen. I mean, he was very good last night against Mike de Decker, but it's difficult in these games where the other players playing so poorly. When you're averaging in the low to mid 70s, it's like it was very similar for Gary Anderson against Joe Cullen. You're almost just playing the board, really. And I know Littler spoke in his interview about just trying to have to be entertaining for the crowd's sake, because there wasn't much of a contest taking place. So I don't know. I try not to overread too much into games like that. I thought Mike de Decker might not turn up, to be honest. So yeah, he's been very good. He was very good against Jan van Veen. I think the key for Littler is how much he fancies it and how focused he is. We haven't yet seen him embroiled in a scrap, which will be interesting, because I think in a normal scrap, he can score his way out of it. But if the doubles were to desert him just for 10, 20 minutes, and he starts moving around the board, that's when it can unravel. And it can unravel quickly in this kind of format. I think this is probably the big test for him, isn't it, against Gerwyn Price, without jumping ahead, because, as you've got along the bottom there, I think he's 6-5 best to win the tournament now. If it's still a shortened format tonight, first to 3 sets, he's playing a genuine world-class opponent. So this would be the one where I would look at it and think, could still go wrong for him. If he comes through this tonight, it's going to be very, very difficult to beat. He will be odds on for the tournament. And yeah, you like you say, it's looking like a Luke Humphries potentially in the final, but he's still got a bit of work to do on that side of the draw. Maybe not some stellar names, but some players in good form, I think, which we'll come on to. So it's an interesting one. Anyone who's backed Littler or Humphries is probably feeling pretty happy with their position at the moment, but plenty of water still to cross under that bridge with this format.
Yeah, the main event, if you like, for Friday, or the feature attraction, Littler against Price. Littler is 1-2 in the match betting there, Price at 15-8. Gerwyn Price has been pretty good as well so far. We warned at the pre-tournament that he's probably in the best form he's been in and most likely to win a major since the last time he won it, which was nearly 4 years ago. So yeah, he's in good form. Blockbuster type game on Friday night. I think they're third on, so prime slot for Littler and Price.
Yeah, I think... Well, I've already touched on the fact that I think there is the big test for Littler, because they've got a really interesting head-to-head record, these two, where Price won the first 5 or 6 meetings, I think, between the pair and had his number. And I think Littler's won every one since. So it's really flip-flop between the two. I thought it was really interesting last night to go in Price, when he was interviewed straight after beating Josh Rock, said, I was just desperate to win this game. However, I had to win it because I really want a crack at Littler in this format. I thought that was interesting. Price is another one like Littler. It's all about where his head's at and how focused he is, really, if he's really up for it. And I thought he was good last night against Josh Rock, because they both started slowly, but he got that first set won and then grew into the game. And by the end of it, he was playing really, really well. Questionable stuff with the double 13 start. Not sure anyone saw that coming.
And he stuck with it.
I definitely get the logic behind it, because you'll know yourself as an amateur darts player that when you're going to the side of the board doubles, like, you are looking right down them, and you do often slip into the one below or the one above, but you still hit a double kind of thing, because it's like a bigger overall target, I suppose, if you combine the 13, the 6, and like the 10, you know, it's one big line, isn't it? But the problem I have with it is, yes, Gerwyn Price, I'm not sure he's the man to be doing it, because he's very stubborn, and you do have to accept with something like that sometimes that, okay, this maybe ain't working. He came out after his interview and said it worked really, really well. And then Sky showed this montage of him missing it about 15 times throughout the match. So I think he maybe thought it was going well, but I think
that's off the battle, though. That's off the battle.
It is.
And still winning.
He'll go back and watch that and think, well, that didn't go quite as well as I thought it did. But I totally get it. And I like the mindset he was in, that I've just got to get myself in, and then I'll just play my normal game. It's like he's separating that part of the game, isn't he? Like getting in as one part and then normal darts almost. So yeah, very interested to see if he sticks with that. There is an angle I like in this game. I like a ball finish in this game. It's price odds against with Ladbrokes and Coral 11 to 10. They just seem to price it generically. 11 to 10 for a ball finish in any of the quarterfinals. But I think this game, for obvious reasons, has plenty of potential for a ball finish. Two of the best ball finishers in the PDC, I think, and the stats would back that up. Luke Littler actively hunts out ball finishes, particularly a 170, but, you know, he'll happily leave a 130. I wouldn't even rule out Luke Littler going for a ball when he doesn't need to. You know, he's that kind of character. So I think it's quite hard to quantify with a metric, but there's definitely more potential in a Littler game for a bullseye to go in. And Price as well is very, very capable of a bull finish. It's a big momentum shifter for him, which is something he loves to do, give a big roar and you know, take out a big one to turn a game on its head. And it just feels like the kind of game where someone might have to take out a bull finish to turn the tide a little bit. Now, I said that I thought Price Rock had potential to go 5 sets, and it did, but unfortunately for Rock, the doubles weren't going in and he fell behind. He probably needed to nick that first set. Now, obviously, if it is going to be 3-0, it's probably going to be 3-0 Littler here. I don't think Price will go down without winning a set or two. So I think you've probably got longevity on your side. You've got two players who like a ball finish and will actively hunt it out. So I think one ball finish at 11 to 10 is a rock solid way to play this game. And, you know, you'll be in it till the last start as well.
Yeah, fair enough. I like it. The winner of that game will play the winner of the bottom quarter, which is Clayton against Dirk tonight. As you've already said, you're on Clayton outright, tipped him on here beforehand. I must say, shout out to Dirk, though. He's been playing well, and it's good to see. He does have the boil-over potential if he starts missing doubles at either end of a leg. But yeah, interesting game nonetheless.
Feels like a bit of a hindsight job for me, this, because I'm looking at Dirk and thinking, yeah, maybe I should have seen that angle a little bit more, because he has got history here at the World Grand Prix, of course, made the final on debut in 2020, lost to Gerwyn Price, and played really, really well throughout. I think it's just because naturally you don't think of Dirk as someone for a good double, like trusty doubling. But I think sometimes when you're a player who's just, it's similar comments apply to Danny Noppert, really. You're a bit of a quarterfinal man, like a nearly man. I think this format, you must think this gives me a chance to actually beat the best players, because it just levels it that little bit. These guys aren't miles behind the top 4 or 5. They just lack the consistency. But if you get in first or second dart, that's like adding 5 points to the average, really. So
last night he got in with the first or second dart virtually throughout the whole match, Dirk.
Yeah, he did, and he's a confidence player as well, Dirk, as well. So if he's had 2 good wins now, he's really, really dangerous. And as someone who's sort of tied up in Jonny Clayton here, I'm a little bit fearful of Dirk, it must be said. I still do think Clayton's a worthy favourite in the particular game. For obvious reasons, I won't be getting any further involved in this one than I am. I'll just be kind of cheering on Jonny Clayton. But if I was to put an angle up, and I do quite like this, I play it very occasionally, but there are times where it does make sense to me. It would be Dirk to win the 180 count, but Clayton to win the match. Now, they're both favourite in those individual markets. Clayton's 4-6 to win the match. Dirk is odds on to win the 180s. And that, you know, you might look at that and think, well, that can't be true. But actually, winning the 180 count is not as related to winning the match as you may initially think. It happens a lot of the time. This is why bookmakers are so keen to push things like win and hit the most 180s double, or win and hit the highest checkout and 180s treble, or whatever. They're not that interrelated, particularly over short formats. And obviously this format is a little bit extended. However, I think Jonny Clayton, I've said it time and again, is a 140 machine. He often uses the first dart to stack and overstack, a little bit like Taylor did in a way, and he manoeuvres the darts off his first dart. But equally, his barrels are quite thick. It can be quite hard to get 3 in the treble sometimes if one's lying awkward. So he hits a lot of 140s and a reasonable amount of 180s. Dirk is just, if the first one goes in, it's probably a max.
Yes.
But this game will be won at the start and the end of legs. You rightly point out that Dirk's been really good getting away. However, over the seasonal numbers, you'd have to favour Clayton strongly there. So there is very much a world where Dirk does out 180 Jonny, but it just comes down to the finishing where Jonny is superior. So if you put them in a bet builder at Bet365, Clayton to win, Dirk most 180s, it might not be the most fun one to cheer on because it feels a bit counterintuitive. But I do think there's value there. 12-5. It's implying a 32% chance of success. I think it's higher than that. I think you're getting a decent value bet there.
Yeah, fair enough. In the top half of the draw, the shortest price favourite in the quarter-final matchups is Luke Humphries, 1-4 to beat Cameron Menzies. Menzies, who's won 2 games pretty well so far, it must be said, comfortably enough. 2-0 Chris Dobie, 3-1 Rob Cross, the underdog in both. But he does have the potential to have a meltdown at any time. We already know that about him, but this format particularly lends itself to Menzies' meltdowns because of the double start as well. Just adding that into the mix. He ended a couple of legs the other day against Cross on double one. In a couple of legs, he missed 7 or 8 match darts before getting the one over the line. But yeah, fair play. He's in the quarter final. He's playing the world number 1 Luke Humphries.
I think Cameron Menzies is answering a lot of questions that people had about him in this tournament, because he's been heavily criticised for his stage performances and his meltdowns. And in his own words, quite rightly, he said, I deserve the stick. He just doesn't like the abuse. And I thought he spoke really well in that particular interview. But in terms of his performance, 2 different challenges, both negotiated. But I think you have to consider the mindset around both of them. The Chris Dobie game, it was a bit of a free hit for him. Dobie was a strong favourite, very short format. They've had a lot of close games. I think he believed like he could win that game if he just turned up and played well. In that first game as well, it was all about overcoming the stage nerves as well. He implied, I don't want to say it because he didn't say it, but he implied that he's changed something in his pre-match routine that is, helping him perform on the stage differently. That would seem to be the case. And then again against Rob Cross, another game where he came in underdog, but I felt like he'd been badly underestimated by the market because Cross was not playing particularly well. And so it proved. So Menzies has done enough in his first 2 games, but he's going to have to do more than enough to beat Luke Humphries. Luke Humphries in his first game was outstanding at getting away. And he carried that into the first set against Krzysztof Ratajski. And then he just wobbled off a little bit and reverted to the mean. But as he's doubling off, dipped, his scoring improved. And that is what you're dealing with the world number 1. He's got all the aces, hasn't he? Whatever he chooses to pull out at any one time, he's got the big finish, he's got the big scores. He could get away relentlessly. That's why he's won this tournament previously as well. Was his first major, of course, a couple of years ago. So I think Humphries is a very worthy favourite. It's very difficult to be putting up angles on Menzies with any confidence because, like you say, the type of performance we could get from him, there is so many different ones that you can't say with conviction what Cameron Menzies is going to do. What I would say is I'd give him enough credit to say that he can cause Luke Humphries problems. I don't know if he can win, but he can make it an uncomfortable match at times. The one angle I do quite like here is Menzies to win the first set and then Humphries to go on and lose the match. It's called double result on Bet365. It's 10-3. I think if you were looking for a way into it, that might be the way to do it because, like I say, Humphries, the doubles at the back end of that second round match against Ratajski just went a little bit awry. And if he does carry that on, then, the first sets go very quick in this format. First set's over in 5 minutes. It's not out of the question that Menzies wins the first set, but I think over the distance, Humphries, I'm fully expecting him to come through this. And that would be how I would play it at 10-3, but it wouldn't be a game I'd be wild about backing, to be honest.
I remember about 10 years ago, Pyman, going off piste here, I made my debut on Sky Sports Greyhound Racing live, and I quoted the price 10-3. Which was correct at the time. And the next day, I went in the office for my former employee and the employer, and the big gaffer said to me, "I saw you last night on telly. Well done. Don't ever say 10-3 again. It's 130." More of a traditional company in the world of gambling. So yeah, I've never said 10-3 again in my life after that.
Right, I'm typing so many previews. I'm just putting the short form.
Yeah. The fourth and final quarterfinal is Gary Anderson against Danny Noppert. Anderson, I think, as Matt's going to, I'm sure, allude to, we've chatted off here, he's had it all his own way pretty much so far, Gary Anderson, and Danny Noppert's been there grinding away. I think that's the crux of your analysis for this one.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm not knocking Gary Anderson. He's definitely done everything that he's needed to do, and he's done it with a minimal of fuss. I thought he was quite good against Raymond van Barneveld, actually, and then he got embroiled in a bit of a match and had to go all the way to a last leg. Actually had to break in the last leg to win. So fair play to him for that. I think also Barney wilted a bit at the end of that game, as he so often does in this day and age. So he got his way through there, Anderson. He's probably a deserved winner. The game against Cullen was a non-event. Like, literally, Joe Cullen, after opposing him heavily in round one, and he won, decided to average about 68 against Gary Anderson, revert to type. Thanks, Joe. But yeah, like, Anderson was just playing the board, you know, and he said as much in his post-match press conference. So difficult to know exactly where Gary Anderson's at, to be honest. And I just think the strong market support for Anderson is a little bit strange and presumptuous. Not saying he shouldn't be favourite, not saying he can't win the match. Obviously he can, but we're underestimating Danny Noppert, to my eye. He was bang under the cosh against Jermaine Watamina, lost the first set. I think he was trailing in the second, and from there he played really, really good lights out darts. He then goes and plays Stephen Bunting as a big underdog. Now, Bunting clearly had a back issue, which he has since confirmed on social media. He was clutching it throughout and wincing on his third dart. But if you just assess Noppert's level, really, really good. Getting in rapid. Treble 20 first start, most visits. Finishing typically rock solid. So I know that Danny Noppert's game's in really, really good order. And as much as the outside perception is that, it's Gary Anderson, could Gary Anderson win the title? People are already thinking about Anderson Humphries or Anderson Littler and all this kind of stuff. Don't overlook Danny Noppert. I think he is being overlooked here. I think he's actually, on the bare evidence, playing better than Anderson. And I think a repeat of that performance would probably see him beat him. So I'm really pleased to be taking 6-4 about Danny Noppert. It's probably my best bet of the quarterfinals. And, you know, if Anderson proves me wrong, so be it. If you're talking to me about the semi-final against Humphries, who's got more chance of winning him, well, you'd say Anderson's best game would have more chance of beating Humphries than Noppert's. But I think in this game, here and now, Noppert is being underestimated by the betting.
Yep, fair enough. Right, let's close off then, Pieman, on who you think of this final eight might win. I know we've been through all the quarterfinals and given a pick in each of those, so we've effectively got the semi-finalist there boxed off there between us. I just wondered if you thought there was any value in the outright market as it stands now.
I don't really. Obviously, it's gone to third odds for two places on the outrights as well. I think you have to be realistic and say that there's every chance we get a Littler Humphries final here, which you know, from a neutral perspective is great, because it'll be a great match. But I don't think there's any standout outright value based on what I said about Danny Noppert. There was a part of me that thought maybe backing Danny Noppert to reach the final could prove to be a good position, because if he beats Anderson in convincing fashion, then you know that would give him a big confidence boost going into Humphries. But I just think it's overcomplicating it. Really, Humphries should come through that top section, and Littler should come through the bottom section. Obviously, I'm on Jonny Clayton, and I do think that if Jonny gets past Dirk, it will be very interesting, because I think Clayton is better at getting in over an extended period of time than Littler, but he will get outscored. So Clayton would need to have a good day. But it's been done before. He's a former champion there. He's an easy man to underestimate. I'm leaning towards a Littler Humphries final. I think most people are, but I'm cheering Jonny Clayton.
Yeah, Littler Humphries final is actually priced at 12-5 currently. Just check that one. But yeah, Littler's 5-4. These are there is one outlet betting win only 5 for the tournament. 5-4 Littler, 3-1 Humphries, etc. Right. Well, Matt will be back on oddsnow.com with written format darting tips every day. I think that is, and there's also, you might see my face popping up for some racing content as well over on oddsnow.com. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we can have more winners or a couple in the World Grand Prix dot. Speak soon.